Welcome to the Conscious Hustler podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Hardin. I know being a leader takes stamina and constant self-reflection. In my double-decade career, I've gone from intern to CEO, launching hundreds of creator campaigns for Fortune 500 brands and building new businesses for creators to grow and scale. Along the way, I have met some of the most interesting people working behind the scenes who have pursued excellence in work and embraced personal growth as mindful leaders. This podcast is dedicated to lifting the veil on successful creative professionals, their mindset, their motivation, and their heart posture. Together in each episode, we will explore the tools you need to not only thrive in your business, but also nurture your soul. My intention is to help you confidently own your work and affirm your experience. If you like what you hear, don't forget to share this podcast episode with a friend, with a neighbor, with a coworker, and subscribe to our channel. Okay, let's get started. Welcome back. I'm super stoked to have my guy, Brendan Gahan, here today. Brendan is the CEO and co-founder of Creator Authority. That's the first LinkedIn influencer marketing agency and a pioneer in the creator economy since 2006. He has led groundbreaking campaigns for the Obama administration, the Olympics, and Fortune 500 brands, including early TikTok and YouTube creator partnerships. Brendan founded Epic Signal, which was acquired by Mechanism, where he became the partner and chief social officer before its acquisition in 2022. Recognized by Forbes 30 Under 30 and LinkedIn's top 10 voices in the creator economy, Brendan also sits on the VidCon advisory board and advises startups shaping the future of influencer marketing. Thank you for being here, Brendan.
Thanks for having me. And that 30 Under 30 thing was obviously a long time ago.
Listen, it counts.
I'll take it.
I love that. It's because we do video, you're like, okay, for folks that are looking at this beard and seeing the gray.
Oh yeah. I didn't even have a beard. I don't even know if I could have grown a beard until pretty recently. It was like, this is all like in the last year. I'd never had a beard before. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we also got to figure out how to get you some sponsorship for some like beard oil.
Yeah.
Dove Men's Care, something like it's giving. I love that. So I was talking to you before, and this podcast is all about, it's called Conscious Hustler, and it's all about making sure that while we're on this journey to, pursue these big ambitions and these big dreams and pursue excellence, that we also are taking the time to figure out like, who's the person behind all of that big ambition, and like, how did you sort of get here? And I want to start the conversation by asking you to tell us a little bit more about your background and like where you're from and, how you got to build Creator Authority. How do we get from where you're from to Creator Authority?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, physically where I'm from is Ventura, California. It's a little like beach town between Santa Barbara and LA along the coast. And I went to UC Santa Cruz, and then I was super fortunate. I got an internship in advertising right after I graduated from college in San Francisco. And, it was that, honestly, I think so much of my career was like right place, right time. And that was right when social media was becoming a thing. Facebook, you still had to have your college email address, and it was the Facebook. And so being in that office, I remember like a lot of people would sort of like ask me about social stuff. Most people weren't on anything. They couldn't get onto Facebook. They were curious about MySpace. And so I would kind of become a little bit of like a resource, but that was also where I was spending my time. And so I kind of fell into like, wait, why? Like, well, just sort of like being like, why would we spend all this money on a billboard? Like, I've never made a decision on because of a billboard, but like, I see all the views on like YouTube, and that makes me want to do X, Y, and Z, and so I just kind of slowly started like throwing out little ideas here and there. And it was a small agency, so I was really fortunate in that people would hear me out and let me bring ideas to the clients from time to time, which I had no business doing.
Why did you think you didn't have any business doing that?
I mean, I was supposed to be a junior account executive, so client management, which was definitely not my strong suit. I'm glad I was able to get out of that. But like, I don't know. I was like, I still think of myself as shy, although I think I'm less shy, but I was definitely very introverted. And so like, um, and I was the youngest person in the office, and I just sort of like, uh, I don't know, I felt a little bit like in over my head, like everybody must know better, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
But I would do my work, and then if I had ideas, I would like stay late, come in early, and I would like package them up and like present them. And it was a really nice group of people. It was a small like 20, 30 person agency, and so it was like pretty easy to basically be like, hey, I have this idea, can we present it? And the partners were really nice, and they
Oh,
would
see, I
show.
love that. And I know we're on a tangent a little bit, but like I love that because it also sounds to me like you were like a creative stuck in like a client
A
management,
little bit,
you
yeah.
know, and being able to kind of break out of the shy factor. I think also just starting in your career, there's so much of the am I doing it right, or like what rules am I supposed to be following?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like, I think I'm about to step on some toes, but I'm not sure, but maybe if it's okay. So like we're always like just searching at that juncture in early career, it's almost like searching for permission to like let the ideas be heard. Did you feel that way?
100%. And also at times thinking like everybody must know something I don't, because like I would have like ideas around like social, but then I would be like, but there must be some reason people spend, all this money on billboards, or like why we're doing it this way. They must have it all figured out. But like there was always this sort of like itch I couldn't scratch with with a lot of like the ideas, and my sort of like over indexing on social, and like why I thought that was like and influencers, and why I thought that was such a smart route to go, because like it was the thing that like I consumed. And so I just was sort of like it was like a thing I knew, but it didn't, but like had a lot of doubt around.
How did you get over that? Because I mean, clearly
Oh,
you ended up on the other side. But so like, how did you kind of start to get over the doubt a bit?
I don't think I ever did, if I'm being honest. I don't think
Yeah.
you, at least me, I don't feel like I ever do. I think I'm constantly like uh throttle between probably 80% of the time thinking I'm like totally dumb, and uh I don't get it, and uh and then like that like random 10 to 20% that's like you're brilliant, like this is like nobody recognizes it, and like but and then that like and like so when I get in the like 10 to 20% mode, it's almost like I'll make a decision, I'll sign myself up for something, and then that part of me that thinks I'm like a you know useless works really really hard to almost like overcompensate.
I okay, so you're not alone. And that's actually one of the biggest aspects of like why I wanted to do this podcast is because we all have these like intrusive thoughts that are gonna try and take you out. And so it's interesting, in different parts of your career, you could probably clock like in this phase, I had some of this like maybe, almost crippling self-doubt, but maybe there was that like book or that thing or that story or that person, that mentor, that somebody that kind of, was able to support you having a different perspective. And or even I call them like glimmers, like that idea that you were sitting on and you're like, I don't know if I should tell anybody this. Like you end
Oh
up
yeah.
saying it and like finding some courage, and then that's the thing that like turns it up. Did you
Yeah,
have that kind of moment?
100%. I feel like, yeah, I feel like I have those in like fits and starts, and like and the thing I think that like I've like figured out is like, okay, it's like if you want to do something, the best thing to do is just sign up for it, and then you'll figure it out. And so it's like even if you don't like you get a little like inspiration or whatever, it's almost like go like let's say you've got an idea you think is really great, like you want to pitch it to a client, be like, hey, can we get a time on the books? I want to present X, Y, and Z. And then you're accountable to that and you'll figure it out. And like, it's almost like it doesn't matter anymore if you almost like think the idea is shit as you're like working on it, because you're signed up for it, you got to get it done. And maybe it is bad, but at least it gets out the door. And you do 10 of those and one sticks. People will remember those wins, hopefully, maybe. Or like I think the wins overall outweigh the like failures, maybe, is a good way to
Oh
put it.
yeah. I mean, also I think what you're talking about is like people talk about doing reps, right? And like
Yeah.
I'm in this season right now with my company where I'm pitching often and talking to people about my startup. And there was this period last year where I wasn't really talking a lot about it. And it's not because I wasn't working on it, but I was just like focused on doing more of what my agency work is calling me to do. And
Yeah.
then I've had friends, they're like, I'm one of the closest people to you and I don't even know what's going on with this. So what are you doing? you know?
Yeah.
And it reminded me like, oh wait, if you want to do something, like start putting the deadlines on the board, doing it, and people say do it scared. It feels so cliche and whatever, but what
Yeah.
what's really happening is you're challenging yourself to not necessarily be prepared for the thing, but like getting some like wins on the board. And that win doesn't mean, oh, and now I've just got $1 million in fundraising. It's I did 10 meetings where I've had to talk about my company to somebody,
Hmm.
and I think for a lot of creatives in the world, they have all of these ideas and they are making decks on decks and saying nothing to nobody. It's like,
Hmm.
where are you putting this? Like, and I think, in our world in advertising and marketing and all of this, there's so much talk and hype around literally any and everything. I mean, like, next thing we know, like, the water isn't wet enough, like there's somebody that's going to sell you more wet water, like there's always something. And I know for a lot of folks, like creator marketing became just like another thing, right? When you were, sort of when you had like the light bulb moment for kind of being in this space, because you and I are similar in this way. Social was coming, it was coming and it was here, and like it was so much more of a consumer thing. Now it's, a publisher advertiser thing. But what made you kind of like lock into creator?
I think it was the first execution I was able to do with influencers. So like when I was at that agency, we sold through this deal. It was like kind of the iPod had come onto the scene. There were still some straggler like MP3 players on the market.
Oh
We
yeah.
were working with this company. They didn't have a big budget, and we were about to turn down a project because they wanted to do a TV commercial. They didn't have much budget, and I was like, "Hey, can I pitch them on like let's do this like partnership with like big YouTubers?" And the partners at the agency were like, well, sure, we were going to say no to this anyways. Like it's like literally like no money. Um, so yeah, go for it. And so they let me pitch it. Client bought it, and we did this partnership with these YouTubers, Smosh, who are still around for a while. I think they were the most subscribed YouTube channel. And when that partnership went live, we crashed the client's website and got millions of views. And I was like, all right, so
This
like
is working.
this, yeah. And like my hunch was like on point. And so from there, I was like, all right, great. This is definitely the route I want to go. Like this feeling is awesome. And so I think I've sort of just been chasing that rush ever since, if I'm being honest. And so, yeah, like I went from that job, I like had interned at that company for a guy that went and became the CEO at Mechanism. And so we were still in touch, and they were doing a lot of like early branded content, web video stuff that like nowadays like is like commonplace, but at the time like not many people were doing. And so I would send them that, and I'd send them like I'd see campaigns they're doing, and I'd be like, here's ideas I think like how I would do it, or like here's what I think like is happening within the space, and just like constantly be like laying out my thinking. And like eventually they were like, let me come in, and I met with everybody, and they were sort of like realizing, all right, we're getting traction with social creative alone, and the production isn't always going to make something a surefire hit. We'll bring in some like young people and build out like a team that can like help push the content that we're making. And so we built out like a really early social team, before you could buy media on most of these
Mm-hmm.
platforms.
Wow. Okay. So, and this is so exciting because if you are someone who is listening to this and you are a entrepreneur, you're in an agency setting and you're, having new ideas and you're like, okay, should I do this here? Should I do this? Should I build my own thing? Like, you know, there are I hope you're hearing this and thinking to yourself, all of it is available to you. That's what I hope you're hearing. And it kind of brings me to my next point around, you having these moments where you're like, yo, I'm onto something here. And finding, other folks who are also kind of like seeing what you're seeing, and working and finding, tribe and relationship. How hard or easeful was it for you being in Cali to find people that were kind of interested in what you were interested in, and trying to find deals in that way? And I'm asking because on the other side, I was in New York City doing similar work and really found it difficult to find people who were really, the space was so new that unless you were like a full screen or a maker or like something, a big MCN, the industry hadn't yet caught up to influencer. And so I'm curious, like how you were able to sort of build community around the work that you were doing at that time.
Yeah, I mean, like in some ways, I felt like I had more of a community because it was like almost so small. Like
Hmm.
when you found somebody, you're like, I found my person. And like
Yeah.
I was really fortunate that, those early days at Mechanism, um, we were like this really small group. Also, I apologize if you can hear, I got a puppy, and I'm
I can
trying
hear
to
the
get
baby.
her to be quiet. Uh, but so the group of people that I found, I was so tight with, both coworkers and then sort of the extended community. But it was small. I mean, like I would go into meetings all the time, and people would be like, I don't understand what you're talking about. I don't know what a YouTuber is. Like, wait a second, I have to pay this? Like the amount, like for 10 years, it was like, I have to pay these people? Like, can't I just do a PR thing? And it's like, well, like they're getting more views and stuff than like you're getting on your like commercials you spent $500,000 on. So I think it's kind of fair.
Yeah.
But and so like it was not all like, oh great, like I've got it dialed. Like I had moments where I was like, yes, this is the thing. But like I definitely had times where I was like, this isn't gonna go anywhere. People don't get it. Like I see something other people don't. I must be wrong. And I can remember a few times talking to my boss at Mechanism at the time, being like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, can I like move, and like, can I like learn from one of the digital producers so I can like get a like real job? Like, cause I don't know if this is going to be a thing like anywhere else. And, yeah, I mean, it was hard. Like I didn't, it's like when I found the people, you were like much closer. Cause now like social influencer, like ubiquitous, but so it was special, but it was also much harder in some ways.
Oh yeah. Man, can I tell you, like, on the other side, I was working for an agency called Translation, and we would just the idea of like convincing people, like this is gonna work. And they're like,
Yeah.
what is the ROI? What is it? And you're like, what's the ROI on the billboard? Like,
Yeah.
come on. And so one of the things that I was really good at, because my background happened in the music business, was trying to bring folks from culture into these settings. And we were working on Bud Light Platinum at the time, and
Oh
we
yeah,
had
I
this like,
remember that.
yeah, like make it platinum was like the hashtag that we were using. And Kendrick had just went on his first tour, and Kendrick Lamar, and I was cool with his management team, and I was like, well, what if we worked with Kendrick? You know, it's his first tour, he's making it platinum, right? There was so much rigmarole that went into that now it's like, of course, but getting when you're on, I call it being a culture A&R, like when you're sort of on the bleeding edge of like what is happening, like it's, I wouldn't call it like futurist, I wouldn't say that, but like definitely like you can see a thing happening because you're in culture, and you're not just sort of like sitting from on high in your ivory tower, you're like in the dirt, so to speak, and you're trying to tell people who have resources like, hey, I think this is going to serve you at some point. Like, why don't we invest in this thing? It's, I think that is part of what builds your chops. So, like earlier in the conversation, we were talking about like, oh, is this good? I don't know if I should present. Da, da, da. Like, there is something about people not believing that when you're like being persuasive and then getting the dub on the board, it's like part of it's like, and I told you, but there's another part too that's like this, there's a there. And I want to fast forward a bit because I think you're doing it again. Like, I
Oh, I
think
hope so.
you're
Thanks.
onto it again. So like, how did you get from, okay, like here are some YouTubers that I think are going to be really smart for this brand, to kind of seeing like what were the like top three things that you were seeing in the market related to LinkedIn expertise, etc., that you were
Yeah.
like, this is going to be the next thing.
Yeah, I would say it was one in 2021. They started rolling out a number of initiatives to invest in creators. So they rolled out partner mode, they hired partner managers, they launched a creator grant program. So that was pretty big. I think also, this was more anecdotal, but I saw more and more of my peers spending time on LinkedIn, and I felt it too. I think everybody did, like during COVID, this sort of like shift. Then, in addition to that, there was this, I think, this shift that happened as like X slash Twitter seemed less brand safe. Um, I saw them roll out a brand disclosure feature so you could say what was a sponsored post. Then they rolled out thought leader ads where you could promote influencer content. And then I started seeing a couple of brand deals here and there. And it just reminded me of like, it felt like this point that reminded me of like YouTube in 2010, Instagram in like 2013, early Vine, early TikTok. It just felt like that. It's sort of like an intangible momentum that's like hard to put your finger on. But yeah.
And then you decided to do something about it.
And then I decided to do something about it. Then I started to launch an agency around LinkedIn influencer marketing. But like also there was an element of like um being ready, because like I'd been at Mechanism forever. Mechanism had been acquired like over a year ago before, and I was getting a little restless. I was also in a place where I was like ready. I was kind of just like a little bit listless. And so I made that leap.
Yeah. Well, there's something that happens when you're in that mode of like, I don't want to do this anymore. I remember when I left my agency, or the agency I was working at, I remembered feeling like, I mean, I was rolling in at 10:30. I remembered feeling like, what am I doing here?
Oh yeah, it's funny because like you reach this point where you like I had support, I had resources. On the surface, it was like in theory I had everything I wanted. I had for the first time work life balance, but I was unhappy, and
Mm.
I think for better or worse, I like the struggle a little bit, and so I went for that.
That's so interesting because you have all of, we've gone through like soft life eras and and everything else. You're like, yeah, was in the soft life, wasn't for me. Like so you're like, let's hit that startup button again and build an agency that is, kind of on the cusp of what we see now happening on LinkedIn. When somebody hears LinkedIn agency, like what do you want them to be thinking about? Like what is the thing that you want them to know?
Definitely want them to think about us. uh, yeah, I think. Well, I think hopefully they recognize that like LinkedIn is a really brand safe platform. It's a highly affluent audience, and it is the next wave of influencer marketing. And Creator Authority has, of all the agencies out there, not that there's that many doing this, but the most expertise and knowledge in the space. And so,
So
um,
is it more like brands call you to connect with the right influencer for that is on LinkedIn?
that's an element of it for sure. But we do the strategy,
Hmm.
ideation as well, and then we'll do, how to best activate the creators. We'll do research and insights.
Oh yeah.
It's we're not so much like a platform or just like a connecting brands and agencies, although that's a piece of it for sure. But more full service LinkedIn influencer marketing. We'll even do paid media and stuff as
Yeah.
well if it's amplifying influencer content.
Okay, so this is my next question because I'm sure you've been getting this a lot too. What is your thoughts on sort of the expert industry right now? Because I feel like a lot of folks that are sitting in their companies and, whether they are manager level or C suite, everybody's talking about personal brand. And they are talking about personal brand, I think, a lot more now because they're seeing these, what we're calling B2B creators. And those B2B creators are getting paid and finding and diversifying their revenue um, by having this presence on LinkedIn, especially. What are your thoughts on someone who is someone's associate director of whatever? And they're like, wait, I'm going to post all the time on LinkedIn. I'm going to get my followers up for the sole purpose of getting brand deals. Like, is that the move in today's world right now?
I mean, honestly, I have such mixed feelings about all of it because part of me hates it. Like, part of me like hates
Right.
like what I do. Uh, I mean, I guess I would say it's a deeply personal decision. Like, don't I think there's so many paths to have a viable career, and you know, personal branding can be certainly one way to sort of stand out, and an audience's leverage. But also, I think for a lot of people, don't feel like that's I would say, don't feel like that's the only way you have
Yeah.
to get there. Because, like, I don't know, like I didn't post anything for probably 10. More than half my career, I was like very much behind the scenes. I never did a whole lot
Do you feel like
publicly.
people like I love this because I feel like there's an energy happening right now where people feel like in order for me to have the career that I want, I have to have an audience because an audience is leverage. I love that quote. Um, but then again, it can backfire, right? So it's like, what would you say to someone who is like really in their W 2 career, but they are like, I want to do more speaking engagements. I want to do more of this and that and the third. They have, some type of a few brand deals here and there. What would you say to someone who is like really trying to figure out how they can become a B2B creator? And like what would your watch out be around that?
Yeah. Oh gosh. I think it's definitely like there's sort of like I feel like a couple paths to do it. Like one is the like you can growth hack your way there, which might work out long term. Is probably more of a short term play. Jump on trends, see what works with the algorithm, churn out sort of very broad content, maybe even speak to stuff outside of your area of expertise. And then there's the more long term play, which is put out stuff that you really believe that others may or may not, and see what happens independent of your day to day sort of results. There's pros cons to both, and like the reality is like I think probably a lot of people are like, oh, I should stick to my guns and this and that, and it's like, yeah, but you might have terrible ideas at the end of the day, and like maybe it is just easier for you to jump on trends. Maybe that's your skill. Um, but that would certainly be the route that I would probably lean towards. I think it's like I personally feel deeply uncomfortable sort of like talking about things that I don't have some sort of insight into. And like also like I don't know, it's interesting. I think there's maybe an element of just because you can talk about something doesn't mean you're like an expert in it either, which like not
Ooh,
to
that's a good one.
yeah.
That's the
And
thing. That's the thing for me where I'm like, there. I know a lot of things about a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? But I, I don't know that I want my professional brand to be like just all over the place in that way. I have to be kind of like very particular about it because we're in this era of people love a good receipt. They love a good receipt. And I think we don't allow people to evolve and to change and to grow. And we are probably like the last bastion of folks that, had started, their career in college, didn't have a LinkedIn. And then, I know when I was 21, it like came about. So like LinkedIn sent me a thing that was like, you've been on LinkedIn for 18 years. And I was like, Jesus, like, I definitely like turned on LinkedIn as soon as I got my first job, I guess. But it was one of those things where long gone are those days where your your professional life can be as quiet or as loud as you want it to be. And long gone are the days where, you can say something on the internet and someone can't find it. Like everything is findable in today's era. I think what scares me the most is with OpenAI and ChatGPT and everything else, anyone can be an expert um, because they speak well or because they can create a LinkedIn post on ChatGPT and like throw it on the internet, and all of a sudden people are like, I'm interested in this. But I think we might be going into this age of trust, and we're already in such a distrustful time, like with everything, with our food, with our institutions, with like literally every and any and everything. So I think it would be, and you let me know if you agree or not, but like I think part of that hack right now is how well do people actually trust you, and can you deliver on that trust through even your product, service, or idea? Like how well does that like show up? um and I think that's what's going to end up selling. If you're going to sell something to somebody, like that's what's going to end up happening, because I guess the old saying is the proof is in the pudding.
yeah, yeah.
you know?
Well, there's sort of like I don't know. Sometimes I feel a little bit like kids these days, kind of. Um,
I
but
feel you.
like, I'll talk to people, and some people will say, I'm an expert. Like I've seen people even say that, and it's like you've been in, a role for, a year or something, and it's like that's wild to call yourself an expert. There is something to experience, and you might have done everything right up to this point, but you also haven't seen things like blow up in your face, and like there's something to that. Like working in influencer marketing, I've had some awful, awful experiences. I've made some awful, awful mistakes. Um, Certainly, no campaign has ever gone perfectly,
Right.
but I don't know. I think there's almost like just because you can be loud, and that doesn't like make up necessarily for experience. Um, I think you can certainly get a lot of rewards for it. So I don't know. I have conflicted feelings about all this, I guess.
Yeah, no,
It
me
sounds
too.
like you do too.
Yeah, listen, but you know what? Somebody, I don't know where I read this, but or who said it, but I heard it and I was like, this is my jam. Um, so knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is not putting it in the fruit salad. Isn't that dope? You know what I mean?
Sorry, I was on mute. I think that is spot on.
You know
Yeah,
what I'm
it's like,
saying?
you know, and some of it is, yeah, it's like an element of like intuition and trial and error. And sometimes, over time as things evolve, those things can work against you too. So it's not like just because you have more experience, you're inherently better.
Yeah.
There can be a point where like you can almost like limit yourself because something didn't work in the past, but like you're not keeping up to date
Well,
or
that's what made you in your younger years too, like very innovative because you saw something. So, and I love this about like just, you would think that, I mean, back in the day, it was like, oh, these guys are in their 50s and 60s. They don't know anything about anything. But because of the rate in which like technology and, everything is moving, everything is happening sooner. So even, you know, like I'm just now entering my fourth decade of life. And it's not, I'm not old, but also like the way time and technology is moving and how quickly that's moving, I still am like my priorities are different. So like I need to be around folks that honestly have a little bit more time to play. And like they have a little bit more time to play, so they're interested in what's trending, what's happening, what's culturally on the bleeding edge. And I love paying attention and being around those people because they may have the insight and I may have the resources, and that's what makes magic happen, and figuring out, oh, okay, like how can we get that thing funded or how can we get this thing shaking, and I just like love that. And that's part of like being a conscious hustler is all about, you know, making sure you're like hustling, doing the things that you need to do and working, bringing that level of excellence with you. But then the conscious part of it is like knowing what you don't know and having enough space to say, hey, you know what? I'm welcoming this awareness into my workspace, how I live, my philosophy. Like it's really, I think it's really, really important. So I know we've covered a lot of ground here, and I love learning more about your story and like how you've been able to kind of come from the advertising background and get like scrappy with, what you were seeing, happening in culture at the time, and even like doing it again. I'm actually pretty thrilled to see how the expert marketplace is gonna roll out. To be honest, I think this is gonna be a very interesting space for a lot of executives. Um, I want to ask you a couple more questions. One is, what is one thing that you hope for the creator economy in the next 5 years?
I would say the big thing is, I think an acceleration of like longer term partnerships would be the big one. I think that's a big opportunity because I think oftentimes is viewed through sort of this media lens, and I think that's a little bit short sighted because you're dealing with people and their associated credibility.
Oh yeah, that's huge. And I feel the same way. I feel the same way too. I might have maybe two more questions then. Who's a brand that you think is doing really well on the sort of leveraging LinkedIn as a platform?
Oh gosh. Well,
It's okay to
we've
have
been,
favorites.
yeah, I definitely have favorites. We do a lot of work with Notion. We worked on that Notion Faces campaign, which was fun. And like, did you
That was
see that?
cool.
Okay,
That
cool.
was so cool. You know
Yeah.
that was cool.
There were a few groups involved, but we were the ones that like got Snoop Dogg and corporate Natalie and stuff like that. So that was
Oh, I
fun.
love
Yeah.
that.
I was so pumped we were able to pull that off. Like, cause like basically it was like all my, holiday break. I was like on the phone with his team like every day, trying to just be like, all right, I mean, it's the holidays. Like people are running around, they're busy, they're in and out of the office. And it was like, they'd have a tweak and then you'd make it and be like, a few days later, you could hear something back. And then it was like, oh, got to make a another little tweak.
Yeah.
And, because it's the holidays, you like don't hear back for a few days. So that was really cool. I love that Canva is like one of the few brands that actually interacts with people that like on LinkedIn
Yeah.
that are mentioning them. Like a lot of brands overlook social listening on LinkedIn. So I think those are the two that really jump out to me.
You just said something that I also overlooked. Social listening on LinkedIn is huge because a lot of brands are thinking about their consumers and not thinking about like the people that are actually using their product and engaging with it at a professional level. Ah, wait, okay. That's going to be a thing on the a thing I'll make note of. Okay, and then last question is, when you hear conscious hustler, what are the words, what are the phrases, what are the feelings that come to mind for you when you hear the words conscious hustler?
Ooh, I think ambitious, but maybe like humble and self-aware.
Yeah, I love that. That's
Yeah.
you.
I was going to say that's you.
That's you. We are both conscious hustlers.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we like yeah, there's a lot of uh I don't know, similar background, work background
Oh
and
yeah,
thoughts and stuff.
100%, 100%. Okay, well, that's our conversation today. I'm so happy that you were able to join. This is
Thanks for
making me
having me.
so
Also like
excited. Okay, that's it. Thank you for listening to the Conscious Hustler podcast. If you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe to this channel and feel free to reach out. I would love to hear from you. You can do so on LinkedIn or on Instagram. Just send me a DM. But until next time, keep listening, keep reaching out. We're in this together. And I hope you have a great rest of your week.